And then locally, Slug, you know, when I started hearing about a crew called Headshots when I was at South in high school. And I was like, Headshots, that sounds like the most, you know, like terrifying rap group I've ever heard of, you know. It's like, and then so I was just kind of like, almost just out of curiosity, just started going to their shows, and they're just playing coffee shops, basically. So it'd be like Atmosphere, which was Urban Atmosphere at the time, Full Circle, Beyond, who now goes by Musab, Native Ones, Los Nativos. So yeah, it was just crazy, you know. There is this own little universe that no one else really knew about. It was very cult following, I guess you could say. But
did it feel crazy to like realize that your hometown had this whole scene going on?
Yeah, I mean that kind of solidified the me wanting to rap right there, because I was like, oh wow, okay, you don't have to be from New York or LA, you know, to be a rapper. So yeah, I mean that was huge, just seeing people doing it locally.
Well, I remember the first time I met you and found out about you a little bit. It was when Idea and Abilities, and you were like Sixth Sense and doing all that. And so you want to talk just a little bit about that? I mean, just like the first group, as you started really performing. I mean, that's where I first saw you perform.
Yeah. So
and you were what, 16 or something at the time?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I ended up backing up Idea and Abilities. I was the hype man. For those who don't know, hype man is just, it's like a cheerleader, basically. It was funny because Idea actually asked another guy in my group, Jesse Kelly, who went by Nameless. Yeah, there's Idea in the back, that's me up front. And so he asked another buddy of mine if he would back him up. And something happened, like his Idea would just kind of show up to our like rehearsals, like our, not rehearsals, we were just hanging out. He would just be, but he would be around. And then like a day or two later, you know, like something like Jesse didn't show up or something, and I was just kind of like, hey man, I can help you out, you know, let me know what you need. And so and then it just happened, and I was like, okay, we got a show. And then so we were teenagers and we're playing like the 400 bar and, you know, Red Sea and everything, and it's places that I wouldn't have been able to get into, you know. And so yeah, it was, I mean, that's definitely how I started just cutting my teeth or whatever, like was just, you know, backing up Idea and Abilities, and, you know, we're these teenagers playing for, you know, whatever, like the bar crowd, and so I can kind of remember the responses being less than, you know, sensational, but it was, I mean, it was an amazing experience. I mean, I never would have been able to get that kind of experience otherwise, you know.
But eventually you formed your own group.
Yeah,
so CMI.
Even at that time, yeah, I was in a group called CMI, Cases of Mistaken Identity. Deep. And yes, notice the matching CMI hats. And actually, that's funny. And that ended up being, that was Oddjobs. Oddjobs broke off from CMI. Like, it gets, you know, it just gets complicated. There's, you know, CMI was just a large collective, and there were smaller groups within that. But yeah, so, you know, we had our own thing. We started playing around town a little bit, especially at Bon Appetit, which is now Cafe 421, I believe. And yeah, there you go, right there. So in the back, they had a little room, and there was a weekly called Headspin. And it was put on by Zach Combs, new MC of Cancer, and a couple other dudes, DJ Serum and Dietrich. And so it was this weekly thing. And it wasn't that big, but I mean, it was like at least the amount of people in this room right now on a weekly basis. And it was just like, it was just the best thing in the world. I've never felt that a part of a community before or after that. It only lasted about a year or so when they shut it down. But and then that was totally how, you know, my group started just playing more and, you know, figuring out, oh, this is how you do a set, this is how you perform, this, you know, make songs and everything. So yeah, it was a huge.
So, and eventually Oddjobs decides, right around the time Channy went to Cambodia, you guys decided you had to make it big and move out to Brooklyn, out to New York.
Yeah, well, two of the guys, Adam, who went by Advisor, MC Advisor, and Devin Callahan, who went by DJ Detox, they went to school out there. So they just moved out there. So Adam was going to Columbia, Devin was going to NYU. So we basically, there was like a year where half of our group was over there, half of us were here. And we put together an EP in that time called Absorbing Playtime, which is the top middle thing. We realized, we're like, you know what, we either gotta like give this up, do something else, or just like actually make it happen. And we're like, hey man, they're already in New York, you know, we wanna be rap stars, so that's probably the place to be. So we all moved out there and, you know, just got a house out, you know, a brownstone apartment out there, and, you know, lived out there for like 2 years.
And you would continue to put out records, and you were touring a lot at that point.
Yeah. We got on this label, this independent label called Third Earth Music. It was put on by this guy Kamani, who was in this other group called Masterminds, and it was all, you know, everyone. It was a very do-it-yourself, you know, label where everyone was a performer, you know, artist in their own right. So yeah, they started putting out our records, and they had national distribution, so that was a huge step for us. It was like, oh wow, okay, we can make records and just really get them out there. So, so we were like, okay, we really have to be on point here, you know, take it seriously. And I remember, like, the first show we did when we were all living there in New York, and we just like bombed like real bad. Actually, I think we opened for Atmosphere. Atmosphere was coming through on tour, and they asked us to open. And it was at North 6, I think, in Brooklyn. And it's a big venue. And we went out there, and I don't know, yeah, we weren't ready. And it just bombed. And it was at that point where we were like, whoa. That was like a real wake-up call, like, we need to get our stuff together, you know, like real quick. And so, yeah, from that point on, I felt
What did that mean? Like, what were the big things that were apparent to you that had to change from what you had been doing?
Just cohesiveness. I mean, it was like, I'm sure it was just real, just sloppy. And I mean, from that point on, we went to the other extreme, which isn't a good thing either, which is it got to a point where we were literally like figuring out like crowd banter, like between songs. Like, okay, you know, this is gonna intro this song, but like literally like what we're gonna talk about. So it was like, it went from like, you know, we got burnt, and then it was like, oh my God, you know, okay, we have to get organized. And so we kind of went to the other extreme. But other than that, it was just like, we just have to be, you know, we just rehearse like all the time, and, you know, always working on music. And so